Electric Fire 2 Hidden Chains Chapter 21.
I'd be lying if I say I didn't dream that night. At first, it was hard to sleep. Sonic let me sleep beside him on his bed. It's small, but we both fit on it. Sonic fell asleep rather quickly after we laid down on his race car bed. I just spent the time staring up at the stars, listening to Sonic purr a bit as he slept, every now and then. And then when I looked up at him, his ears would twitch slightly. Also, he kicked a bit in his sleep. As I stared at the stars, when I was looking at Sonic, well, they reminded me of home. I didn't think I'd ever realized how much I missed the Ark until I was staring at the stars in a different place. Earth was everything Maria and I had imagined it would be like. Well, aside from the people here, some aren't exactly welcoming, as in gun, but what Sonic had told me, it seemed they thought wrong of me, yet if we met up again, they'd most likely put me in isolation again or worse. I wish I could change their mind, but I doubt there is a way to. Gerald's lie got too out of my control. I doubt Gunn would listen to me. At least I'm free from their clutches at the moment. As long as they think I'm dead, that is. Sleep finally found me after a while of me thinking about the Ark. In the dream, I was running down the hall, breathing a bit heavily. I could hear light panting behind me. I felt someone's hand in my left hand. I looked back to see her again, Maria. Gun soldiers were behind us. One pulled out a gun. I knew this story all too well, but I was able to change it this time, though it wasn't real. I let go of her and stood in front of her. The soldiers backed up a bit except for the one that held their weapon. He held it out in front of him and aimed it towards my chest.
"Don't move or I'll shoot,"
he called out. Maria stood behind me. Both of us stood very still.
Shadow?
Maria asked in a whisper, but I didn't respond. I kept my eyes on the weapon, fearing the shot. I sensed other agents were circling us. Without thinking, I used Chaos Blast on them. Afterwards, I fell to the floor. I could feel the cold steel metal plates on my hands through the gloves. I felt a gentle hand on my back. I knew it was Maria's, telling by the touch. But the agent with the gun drawn had survived that blast, though he got up and brushed himself off. Maria backed away in fright as the man approached. My energy was gone. I could feel a rush of adrenaline, though. His footprints echoed down the hall before stopping a couple feet away. I sensed fear and also some rage. His teeth were chittering a bit as he tried to aim his pistol at me again. This time he was aiming for my head. Once he aimed his weapon where he wanted the bullet to hit, that was when he pulled the trigger. All I could hear was a terrified shriek. Then silence. That was when I realized I'd woken up. My quills were standing on end. I allowed my eyes to adjust to the room. I realized that I was alone in the race car bed. I got up quickly after realizing Sonic wasn't there. I grew worried, thinking I might have accidentally attacked him in my sleep, or maybe Robotnik got him. I ran quickly down the stairs. I found him in the kitchen. He had a blanket with him wrapped around his shoulders. He was getting something from the fridge. "Sonic?" I called out, which caused him to flinch and look back at me. He had a water bottle in hand.
"Oh, hi, Shadow. I just got thirsty. Do you want one?"
He replied, trying to act casual. I just shook my head and he closed the door. We went back upstairs together. I didn't exactly want to go back to sleep, though. When we got back up there, the clock read 3 o'clock a.m. He had a small alarm clock on his nightstand. It wasn't there for 4. He must have gotten it after the incident with me in the Ark. I hadn't noticed it, till now anyway. Sonic climbed into his bed and set the water down on the floor to wrap his blanket around himself.
"Oh, if you want a blanket, there's an extra one on my beanbag chair. I forgot to mention it earlier."
He said before grabbing his water and unscrewing the lid as he sat up. He took a sip as I went to get the blanket. It had a design on it, but I couldn't make out what it was in the dark. It was a new moon, as in the moon wasn't visible tonight. He set the water back down on the floor. The cat was back on it as I crawled back into the bed and wrapped the blanket around myself. Going back to bed was no easy task. My mind was still played that scene all over and over. I also found myself thinking of what Maria would have done if Gerald had gotten his wish. At least I think that would have been what he wanted. All of his work was wasted on me, and I wasn't even able to fulfill the task he gave me. So I was a failure, just like the bio-lizard was along with the other creatures before me there. I doubt any came after my own project, since Maria died and my final task would have been to destroy this place. But I have no real reason to. Beating Sonic was the best and also the worst thing to happen to me. Sonic looked at me.
You alright there, Edgelord?
I then met his gaze. Yeah, just thinking is all, I replied. I didn't exactly feel like talking. He didn't say anything after that. He just rolled over and quietly fell back asleep. Flea found me a little while later after he had fallen asleep. Before then, I imagined what Maria would have done if I'd risked my own life to save hers. But then Gerald would have created another project after I would have been disposed of. He probably would have ruined another creature's life. If so, I would have been erased from his memory if I were replaced by something else. Maybe I did have a future. Maybe this is why Gunn didn't shoot me after I landed. Maybe that's why I was put in isolation. Maybe I've been just thinking about this all wrong. I wish you were still here, but dwelling on the past isn't something I want to do. I guess it's time to move on and live my own life instead of thinking of what could have been. Like I know I will never be able to achieve the life I wanted back then, but at least I still have a life I can be proud of. As for sleep this time, nothing much happened. One day it was all dark, the next a bright light appeared. Daylight. The sun woke me up from this void of darkness I was dreaming of. I was the first one to awake. Sonic was still asleep when I got up. His clock read 9:30 a.m. I still wanted to try and remember something else other than the bad stuff, but my mind was blank. Only thing to do was go back to the source of my existence. But I doubted I'd find anything. If Gerald wanted to forget me, then he most likely burned everything that could have told Gunn that I wasn't a problem to worry about. He'd be likely to hold that stuff that would prove his case. But if Gunn really thought I was a danger, then why would they only keep me in isolation? I wondered as I got out of bed and stood up before heading downstairs. Once at the stairs, I let her aside before heading down. I went back to the kitchen. I found a box of cereal and 2 bowls on the counter waiting for me. There was also a note. I knew it was probably from Tom. Sonic said he'd usually set a box of donuts on the counter, but today it was cereal. He probably didn't have time to pick up donuts before he had to go to his job. I wasn't exactly hungry at the time, so I went to the living room. Ozzy was lying on the floor. He had found a spot where the sun was shining. He looked so comfortable. I wondered what was so great about it. I just went to the couch. The sun was shining on it. It seemed someone forgot to close the curtains last night. I still sat, but then I had this urge. I couldn't fight. I laid down. Oh man, that was the best. My fur went from dark color to an ashy gray from the light. I rolled over onto my side and well, I napped there for a few minutes before Sonic came downstairs. I didn't turn over even though he stood in front of me. Well, a few feet, he wasn't looming over me though.
Good morning, Edgelord.
He said before going to the kitchen. I decided to join him. By then I was hungry. I didn't exactly want to leave the spot in the sun. I can't exactly explain it, but it was very comfortable and warm. But hunger was stronger than my urge to stay on that couch.
No donuts today. Oh wow, we've been eating them a lot lately.
Sonic mainly spoke to himself as he grabbed one of the bowls, then grabbed the milk from the fridge. I said nothing as Sonic poured cereal into the two bowls. Not exactly my favorite breakfast, but at least it was something. After we ate, nothing much happened. We grew bored after a while, and then that's when Sonic had this great idea.
Hey, since we're bored, do you want to race or maybe train for a bit in the woods?
He smirked. I guessed it would be fine. So we were off towards the woods. We raced there, both of us avoiding obstacles on the way, such as trees, boulders, tree stumps, tree roots, basically anything that would trip us or even have us crash into something. Once we were at the clearing, that was when we decided to fight. I didn't exactly want to hurt him. I took it easy on him, and he did the same. Neither of us tried to unleash our full power. It was just a friendly competition.